Let me tell you about a little game called Mythic Arcana. It's a small indie board game by designer Tony Go, creator of other games you've probably never heard of like Deep Space D6 and Dragon's Ransom. The game's all about racing your friends to complete the perfect pantheon of mythological gods and monsters. Let's start with the basics. Look, every pantheon features a few key archetypes of deities. You have your gods of wisdom and knowledge, war and strife, heaven and oceans, life, and of course, death. To win, you need to summon at least one god of each domain, and keep them for an entire turn in order to claim your spot in the myths and legends. So, for the actual gods themselves, the game features a wide variety of deities from Egyptian, Greek, Shinto, Hindu, and Norse myth, plus one special little visitor. Also featured are a wide variety of monster cards. These monster cards are the beginning of the bad parts of this game, but we'll get to that later. A god's domain is indicated by a symbol in the top left corner of the card. The worshiper cost to summon a god, located in the top right, and any abilities a god might have are located at the bottom of the card. There are four main types of abilities. They should seem intuitive if you've ever played a card game like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering. Arrival abilities trigger as soon as a god is summoned. Presence abilities are ongoing effects. Feats can be activated on your turn, but they exhaust your god, meaning you have to use another card to refresh them before you can use it again. And destruction abilities are triggered as soon as a god is destroyed by another god. By far, the best thing about these cards is the absolutely beautiful artwork on them by illustrator Tim McBurney. If I'm being honest, I bought the game for the artwork before I ever knew how to play it. The structure of the game is pretty simple. First, you draw a pool of gods from the deck onto the offer. Then, each player rolls 2 dice. The result of these dice is your worship value for the turn. In order to summon the god, you have to have a worship value greater than or equal to the worship cost in the top right corner of a god's card. Starting with the player who rolled the lowest, you take your turn. In order to summon the god, you simply take it from the offer and place it in your pantheon. On your turn, you may also activate any abilities that your gods might have, such as a feat. And then that's pretty much it. Your turn's over. Whoever rolled the next lowest goes, and that cycle just continues until someone has a full pantheon of gods and manages to keep them for an entire turn. Then they win, and that's it. It's pretty simple, right? But the game gets complicated. It's all the different abilities the gods have. Some gods destroy other gods, some add to your worship value, and some exist just to annoy your opponent. Remember what I said about monsters earlier? Monsters are special cards because they don't count towards winning the game because they don't have a domain. But they do have very powerful abilities that affect all players on the table, even the person who played the monster. Monster cards can only be activated at the beginning of the round, after everyone has rolled their dice, but before anyone takes their turn. This is where the problems start to arise. The rulebook and the cards are incredibly inconsistently worded, and sometimes the rulebook and the cards say fundamentally different things that completely change how the card is played. In fact, about half the monster cards don't even follow the rule about being played at the start of the round. You have no way of knowing that just looking at the cards. The only place it says that is in the back of the rulebook. And some of these descriptions have like sentences in here that explicitly state rules that are like implied just by the fact they're a monster. And this makes me think that when the designer was making the game, halfway through writing the monster descriptions, he changed his mind, but he didn't go back and fix the rest of them. And so half the monsters follow one set of rules while half follow another. It's just weird. And this isn't just with the monsters, it happens with the god cards too. Like half the time you're playing the game is just spent flipping through the rulebook, reading the descriptions, trying to figure out which version of the card you're supposed to be playing. Beyond the rules and consistencies, the game is very reliant on RNG. In order to have a strategy, everything has to go perfectly. You need the gods you want to be pulled from the deck, and you need to roll enough worshippers to be able to summon it before it gets discarded or someone else summons it before. Often the game ends when you look over abruptly at your opponent and they just have a full pantheon and you had nothing to stop them because you never got any of the cards you needed.
and likely never had a chance to because they never got pulled from deck, or your opponent just grabbed them first because he rolled better than you. They win, and you can't really do much about it unless you got lucky. Look, this game has a lot of problems, largely stemming from the fact that it's made by a small studio, likely without a lot of playtesters or proofreaders, but once you get past all that, it's actually really fun. The game's really quick and like really exciting with lots of twists and turns. Like entire boards can be wiped out in like a couple turns, and just staring at like your full pantheon of these absolutely beautiful cards. Oh, it's just fun in a way that kind of just makes up for the frustration of having to learn how everything works and all the inconsistencies. Overall, if you're interested in the game, I'd buy it for the artwork and how stupidly fun it is, but I wouldn't expect it to be any sort of like strategic masterpiece at all.